everyone, and welcome to another elite episode of the Get Authentic with Marcus show. I'm your host, Marques Ogden. On today's episode, we're joined by Ms. Therese Robinson. And before we bring up Therese to the stage, I want to thank one of our amazing sponsors. We want to thank our sponsor, Chris Miles of Money Ripples. He helps you to create a financial legacy that you can take care of your family and can be proud of. We thank Money Ripples and Chris Miles for sponsoring this episode. Now, here she is, Therese. How you doing today, Therese?
Hey Marcus, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you, young lady. Therese, first question. What does the word authentic slash authenticity mean to Therese?
So for me, that means the willingness to let people see what's really happening, the willingness to share, the behind the scenes or what's really going on before you see the polished version of me. So that's what that means to me is being willing to show yourself to others, flaws and all, especially when you don't, you know, have it all together.
Love it. Therese, I like what you said about showing it all when you
Yeah.
don't have it all together. So
Yep.
many people, I have a good friend, Chris Paradis, we were talking about this over lunch, that so many people want to be liked. Instead of
Yep.
trying to just live their life and do what they need to do, they're so focused on being liked by everybody else. And what happens then is you start living your life for other people and not for yourself. So I love how you said that. And it's such a great, great definition, in my opinion, of authenticity. So
Yeah.
Therese, tell us a little more. Just tell us your story, a little bit where you're from, your backstory, what you're doing currently now in your career.
Sure. So originally, I'm from Trinidad, but I grew up in South Florida, in Miami, and I kind of grew up in the healthcare space. So I worked in the hospital systems as an administrator for several years, and then fast forward in time, about 7 years ago, I relocated to the Dallas area, Dallas, Texas, and I transitioned from being in hospitals to healthcare staffing, again, still as an administrator. And really, I like to call this my re-origin story, which essentially means that, in 2021, I went through, well, I guess I'll just share. So in 2021, after years of being in a particular role, pretty successful in that role, we were talking about a promotion for a very long time. And so I had a call scheduled with my boss to talk through the specifics of a promotion. And on that promotion call with my boss, I was actually fired.
Oh,
And so that's the beginning of my, re-origin story. Now, I would love to tell you that, this was the awakening I needed to follow my dreams and follow my passion. But, if I'm going to be authentic and be honest, that's absolutely not what happened. What followed was months of depression, and months of really kind of beating up on myself because throughout the years, although I was promoted into roles and I did a pretty good job. I always struggled to believe that I actually belonged where I was. And I always viewed every role that I received as someone taking a chance on me versus recognizing that, I brought something to the table. And so for the first few months after that termination, Marcus, I struggled. I struggled a lot. And I just kind of sat in that shame of, well, number one, getting fired. Number two, getting fired on the same day I was asking for a promotion. So in my mind, I'm thinking, how clueless was I? Like, how did I not see this coming? Um, and then comparing myself to so many people. And so going through that for a few months was hard. But what happened at the end of that was I was lucky enough to have a really great support system of people, including my husband and some mentors who really pushed me to try something else. And so in 2021, I transitioned from working for organizations to deciding to work for myself. And I did some consulting work. And through that consulting work, I recognized that there was this desperate need in organizations to work with leadership teams, but to focus on confidence in leadership. And so that's what I do now. I am a professional speaker, but I'm also a leadership expert that focuses on building confidence within leadership teams because that tends to be the constant and the connector that I'm seeing that is really impacting the success of organizations. If your leadership team is not confident in their ability to lead, then it trickles down and it has this huge domino negative impact on the entire organization.
I really love this, Therese, because a lot of people don't understand that being confident is very vital to your success and to
That's
your
right.
fulfillment and to helping others. Again, I'm going to really mention because I'm with him, here in Hartford, Connecticut. My good friend Chris Paradiso is a really good example of somebody that's confident that he puts out content to get people inspired and help
Yes.
people and all that. Now take Marcus of 2012. Marcus of 2012 had an ego that was bigger than King Kong. You couldn't tell Marcus anything. You try
Yeah.
to talk to me. Oh, what are you saying? I fire you. I mean, I had a $20 million plus company. I'm 30 years old. I think I'm running the world. And then 3 months later, bam, I'm bankrupt and I'm broke. So my question is,
Mm.
right, Therese, talk to our audience about the difference between confidence and egotistical and how you help leaders become more confident but not cross over the line of being egotistical.
So Therese's definition or Therese's kind of perception on the difference here is this. Ego and being egotistical is external. It has a lot to do with the environment, who's around you, who am I trying to impress, what do I have, how can I show that? Whereas confidence is this deeply rooted thing that's inside of you that cannot be shaken. It has nothing to do with external. There's no impact based on what's happening around you. Now, how do we get there? Because what we find is, and you just pointed something out that I want to bring back. You said I was egotistical, I had all this money, I was out there, I was doing things, but I'm willing to bet, Marcus, if you and I were to share a cup of coffee one afternoon and we really dug a little deeper into who you were back then, I'm willing to bet, I bet you $1. I'm willing to bet that if we got down to really kind of the bare bones of that ego, there were probably some things in there, some things that you were maybe trying to prove to yourself, maybe trying to prove to others. There might have been some negative self-talk that you were trying to quiet. And that's how you kind of presented yourself as this, overly confident, egotistical person, when in fact, you might have been struggling a little bit with your own internal confidence. So just something to think about. And I'd love for us to check in on and tap into that later in the conversation. But getting back to ego versus confidence, I think egotistical is external, whereas confidence is internal. And so what I work with leaders on is to identify the root cause of that. So why are we struggling today? What are some of the things? How do you respond in times of stress or adversity? What is that first thing that happens when you are dealing with a tough situation? Do you immediately go to, okay, I've got to try and figure this out? Or do you immediately go to, oh my gosh, here's yet another thing that I'm unable to do. I can't figure it out. I'm this, I'm that. Statistically speaking, Marcus, most of us lean in on that piece of, oh gosh, here's another thing that I can't do. And I like to call that insecurity stacking. Some people call it negative bias, but I call it insecurity stacking, where our response to a tough situation or adversity is to immediately think of 10 different things or more of situations or things that we didn't do well, or 10 different ways that we're not good enough. That is, statistically speaking, that's how most of us respond to adversity, is by immediately tapping into all of the times that we were not good enough in our careers, in our lives, and so on. And so what I help leaders do is to define kind of How do you react in those situations? And then once we can determine how you react, then we can work on how to build that confidence muscle. And I call it a muscle because it's a skill. It's not something you're born with. It's something that you have to be taught. It's something that you have to practice. And it's just like any other muscle. If you don't work it and work it out constantly, it becomes weak. So you have to continuously, consciously work that confidence muscle. And so what we do is we start to what I call security stack, which is brick by brick, stack by stack, building up a case within ourselves that continuously shows us that we have the ability to do X. We can do Y. We can tackle virtually any situation that comes in front of us. And that security stacking basically happens with three steps. And that's first intentionality. So what are we focusing on? What is that thing that we're trying to tackle? And then two, looking for evidence. There's proof. There's proof everywhere that we are able to accomplish that thing. We just have to find it. And then lastly, action, which is building that momentum to get that thing done. Oftentimes people think confidence means that if I am presented with something, then I just feel fantastic about it and I know that I'm going to knock it out of the park. And that's just not the reality. Confidence is the ability to try. That's it. That's simple. Let's make that commitment to try. Let's be intentional. Let's look for evidence and let's actually do the thing and keep trying and keep doing that thing. So that's what I do with leaders. I work with them on learning how to security stack by following those three steps and being consistent.
Yes, Therese, I absolutely love this because, and by the way, you would have won your dollar bet without a doubt. I talk to all the time. I was living what I call the personality ethics:
Yes.
rage, wrath, envy, anger.
Yes.
I was so big on trying to get people to think I knew everything when in
Yeah.
reality I knew nothing. I'm actually in Hartford, Connecticut, talking about authenticity creates victory. And I'm going to tell everybody, authenticity to me is knowing who you are in the moment, knowing
Yep.
that the moment is going to change. I'm not the same person I was, when I was married. I'm not the same person I was a year ago, things of that nature. And I'm telling these leaders, authentically, you need to share your vision and have your team understand where you're trying to go and how they can help you get there, but be real and be vulnerable. And that's what I hear when you say about confidence. It's the
Yes.
art to try. And I think that's
That's right.
sensational because, again, when I started speaking, right, that's my next question for you about your speaking. When I started speaking 12 years ago, it was fear. I was afraid, but I tried anyway. I didn't get anywhere for years. Everything
Yeah.
was free, but now I get paid and I love it. But again, I had to face the fear, be confident, and try. And when I did, and I didn't give up on it, that's when great things happen. So love that. So my question for you is,
Yeah.
right, Therese, you said that you speak. So you're a confidence coach with leaders, coaching, love it. You said you're a speaker. What do
Yes.
you speak on, and who are you trying to inspire with your message?
So I speak again on confidence in leadership. That's the message 100% of the time because the reality is it impacts everything. If you are a leader or you are working with a leader who lacks confidence, well, man, it's going to impact the dollars and the cents. It's going to impact culture. It's going to impact engagement. It impacts everything. And so I talk a lot about building confidence as a leader or amongst leaders. Now, I tend to lean more on the healthcare side because, that's where I grew up, right? But my message really resonates with anybody. And what I tend to do is I share when we talk about authentic and sharing kind of all of the things, that's what I do on stage. I share all of the things. I share the fact that I'm a recovering bad leader. That's what I call myself. I'm a recovering bad leader because unfortunately, if you were to tap into some of the people I led 10 years ago, they would probably say, my gosh, why is she on stage talking about leadership? She was a micromanager and she was so disconnected. And they're telling the truth because that's exactly who I was because I was constantly afraid of being found out. And like you, a few years ago, back in 2012, I'm willing to bet that all of that that you were doing and all of the things that I was doing as a leader really boiled down to this. I'm trying to show you that I'm worth it. I'm trying to show you that I'm worthy. I'm trying to show you that I belong, even though I don't believe any of those things. And so when I'm on stage, I talk a lot about how the little things that we can do on a daily basis to build our own confidence, even if we're not a leader today. Maybe we're emerging, or maybe we have no interest in leadership. But everything that you do, if you're able to build your confidence, then my goodness, you're going to show up, and you're going to show up like a whole new person. And it doesn't have to be even in your work life. It could be in your personal life. Marcus, I follow you on social media. I see you doing these incredible things for your girls. And what you are doing is you are laying the foundation for who they will be as women, and showing them how to build confidence every single day by just getting up and trying. And that is the key message. I just want you to get up and try. That's it.
Therese, this is absolutely sensational because so many people struggle with just that, saying,
Yes,
I am going to face the fear, I'm going to get up, I'm going to do what's necessary. I think that's great. I have two more questions. Therese,
sure.
I'm a big believer, right? Win the relationship, not the job. And I really feel as leaders, when you're confident in relationship building and you're not focused on trying to be transaction oriented, you
Yes.
then come across like an individual that really wants to help someone, not an individual trying to help someone for your own gain. Can you talk about how important it is for leaders to win the relationship and come across confident, like they're wanting to offer advice and help people, not a leader trying to do something for you, wanting something in return?
Yeah. And what that boils down to, Marcus, is all that leads to one word, and that is trust. That's it. So if you as a leader, you focus on your own relationship with yourself, because that's got to be the first one you focus on, right? That own relationship with yourself, and that's that security stacking. And then you focus on building solid, trusting relationships with the folks around you, whether they report to you, you report to them, or they are your same level colleagues. Building that trust is going to take you so much further than anything else. And I'm going to take 5 seconds to tell you a quick story. I worked for a CEO. He was maybe three levels ahead of me. He wasn't even my direct leader, but he had this way of, I'm going to just say his name, Calvin Glidewell. He was a CEO of my healthcare system, and he had this way of connecting with just about anybody that came in contact with in that hospital. So much so that I trusted him, and I worked harder for him than I have worked for anybody else because I trusted him. It mattered to me what he thought, and I wanted to show him that I could do a great job for him and with him. And so that's really what that is. It's building those relationships with people that lead to a very strong, trusting connection, because that connection that you have, that relationship that you have, can carry on for decades, way past whatever position or whatever project that you had. And that is a relationship that you will be able to tap into for years and years to come. But it starts with confidence in yourself, building that relationship within yourself, authenticity, and trust.
Therese, I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, trust is the foundation of
That's
any
it.
successful relationship.
That's it.
Competency, reliability, having that individual's best interest. That's what it's all about. Therese, how can people get in touch with you to find out more about your coaching, your speaking, and your offers?
So you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm sure you'll put all those links in the show notes, but
I
you can find me
will.
on LinkedIn. Therese Gopaul-Robinson. I'm also on Instagram, but you can also just check out my website and you can follow me there too as well. And that is theresegr.com. And that is TheresegR.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, reach out to Therese, connect with her. She's sensational. She has a lot of
Oh, thank you.
great views on how to go about